God damn it, dark romance. This book made me wonder if I'm a good person. It's The Sinner by Shantel Tessier. If you read The Ritual and thought, this is great, but couldn't it be darker? That's this book. And I knew it. I knew it from other people who've read the whole series that The Sinner is darker than The Ritual. And I don't think I was prepared for that. I also very incorrectly thought that this book was about Ty. It's not. It's not about Ty at all. It's about Sin. His real name is Easton. And this story takes place at the same time as The Ritual. So characters from The Ritual come into play here. Oh boy, this story is so dark. It's so dark in ways that Shantel Tessier totally prepared me for. Read the trigger warnings because this book is honest. Those trigger warnings are real triggering. Anything that she says happens doesn't happen in a light kind of, ooh, oh, maybe it's kind of hinted. No, it happens. Like, things are described on page that are very disturbing. If you read Sicko and you went, okay, I get that. That's my jam. This book is like that in a lot of ways. Ellie is the love interest in this story. One of the most confusing parts to me about this is in The Ritual, there seemed to be so many steps that one had to go through as part of the Lords. You had to pick your chosen. You had to go through the ritual at the church. You had to do all of these things. And in this book, all of that gets blown out of the water. Sin does not claim her as a chosen. Kind of outside of that, more adult and yet more confusing to me. Sin and Ellie, who have loved each other from afar for years, finally deciding on Sin's part that he is going to claim her. He's done with being without her and she is his. And it's a very Lord's mentality. It's a very dark romance mentality. I cannot emphasize this enough. It is so dark and I ate it up. I inhaled this. I prefer The Ritual. I do, just because this book touched on subjects that I don't enjoy reading about. This made me sad for Ellie in so many ways. Ellie really suffers at the hands of this plot, and that's the point, but I'm hoping the rest of the books in the series aren't quite this dark. I've heard this is the darkest of them, so maybe I'm through. It is also incredibly spicy, deeper into play and kink than The Ritual, but not really kink because there's no negotiation or consent, which there isn't much of in The Ritual either. God damn it, dark romance. I loved this book. This is my copy. I got signing editions, so if you're wondering why my edition looks weird, it's because this is a signing edition I got at a conference, and this is, I mean, I'm a book ruiner anyway, but this is my spine. This is like, I needed to open it fully. I broke the spine this many times because I needed to open it fully to inhale this book. These are all of my tabs. Honestly, they're just big moments when I did nothing but go, in my reading. Like, I had no other thoughts than, oh my God, what happens next? I need to keep going. But she writes so well. She writes so compelling. She writes things that I just want to keep reading. And there were twists and things in here where my heart broke for Ellie and Sin, both of them. They clearly love each other so much. And while I want them to go the distance, I do wonder if the things in this book broke them, or they would have broken me. That is book two, The Sinner in the Lord series. And well, yeah, I'm gonna keep going. Fuck, what's the quote? Y'all might not know this about me, but I love Cinderella. I do. It's like a deep, like weird shame of the feminist in me that story has a chokehold on my psyche. So I was really excited when I heard about Cinderella is Dead. This is not a new book. This has been around for a while. It came out in 2020. It's written by Kalynn Bayron. I am so sorry if I'm messing up your name. And I was so excited because this is a retelling, but not really. Cinderella has been dead for 200 years. At the core of the story is, what would happen if the patriarchal expectations that are set forth in Cinderella won? What if the patriarchy won? What would happen specifically to women? And the answer is bad, 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 bad things. Handmaid's Tale without the militarization of it. It's not good. It's 200 years later, and our main character is Sophia. She's our point of view character. And she is a person of color, which isn't really mentioned in this story. This is a world with no racism. So, oppression of women, but no racism. You get what you get. And she is in love with her best friend, Aaron, and she wants to run away. This story does not take place in our world. It's not in France. It's not in Europe. It's not anywhere on Earth. It is in a made-up space. So they want to run away past the forbidden lands and escape the terrible, terrible situation they're in. Aaron says no, and Sophia is trapped. In this world, every girl starting at the age of 16 is required to go to the annual ball, where she may be chosen, aka dudes who are single and decide, I guess I should wife up now, show up and can claim a woman. She gets no say, she can't refuse, and if you're not claimed your first year, it is very shameful, and if you're not claimed your second year, it is horrifyingly shameful, and if you're not claimed your third year, you disappear to the work farm or somewhere else. I don't know, you're never heard from again. Also, every household is run by a man, and a man can do whatever he wants to the people of his household, women and children included. He can abuse them. He controls all the finances. Women have zero power in this world. It's real scary. I'm not going to lie. It was really scary to read at some moments. Sophia ends up running away from the ball. Big deal. King sees her. She's in trouble. And on the run, she ends up at Cinderella's tomb, which has been hidden from the public. There she meets Constance, who it turns out is a descendant of one of the stepsisters. They're not evil. Oh my goodness. Who knew that if a man was in charge and trying to rewrite history, they would make women evil? Shocker. Constance takes Sophia with her so that they can work together to plot the overthrow of the king. There is some magic. There are some twists. They meet the fairy godmother. They debunk the myth, the story of Cinderella that has been passed down from the kingdom into what really happened and what has been going on these last 200 years. And throughout this story, Sophia and Constance fall for one another. I'm not ruining it. You kind of knew it. Come on. Beautiful redhead shows up to save her. Sophia was definitely going to fall for her. This story makes a lot of really good points on humanity, on feminism, on what do we need to do to overcome the systems that have been in place for years purposefully to oppress us as women and as humans. A good observation was, what does this system do to the men who would be good if they weren't taught from, what is the quote? I'm just going to read it. Sorry for my eyes. What about the young boys who will never have a chance to be decent people because they are taught from the cradle to be despicable? That's real. You don't know if you'd be a good human if you're taught to be a bad one, if you're taught to be disrespectful, if you're groomed from birth that women are inferior to you and should be handled in a way that is cruel and unjust. How do you know that you wouldn't be a good person if you'd just been raised in a more equitable space? This brought up a lot of kind of feminine rage for me. She's written other remixed tales on her own and also part of the remixed classics series I read most ardently in March, which was great. And that is on KU. This is not, but it is so worth a wait at the library. Cinderella is Dead. Go. It really healed some of the feminine rage that I have. If you are in your cozy witch era and you have not read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, this is your sign to go read it. I'm not normally a cozy witch person. This story follows Mika Moon, who is a witch in the UK. The world building in this is that whenever a witch is born, her parents shortly die. All witches are raised as orphans. She has been raised mainly by nannies under the care of Primrose, this elderly female witch who kind of oversees the witches of the UK. Also in witch society, there are a lot of rules governing how often, where, and when witches can congregate. Witches attract the magic that's in the air and they manipulate it. So more witches gathering means more magic congregating, which means people could potentially see you, accidents happen. Nishtgit is what it comes down to. And so there are rules saying that witches can't connect with each other, can't talk to each other, can't be around each other except for their once a quarter meetings, which means Mika is very isolated. She receives an invitation from an unknown person to tutor 3 young witches, which she's very curious about, as witches are orphans and you don't normally find witch children together. The rules. She goes to what is called Nowhere House and meets these 3 young girls who in fact are witches and are being raised together in this estate. There is a witch who is their guardian, Lillian. She's gone. These children are under the care of Louise, Ken, Ian, and Jamie, the librarian, and the love interest. Mika is thrown by the realization that these girls are together. There's also some imminent danger from a solicitor. Doesn't really matter. She decides to stay and train these young girls to give them what she never had, companionship and connection. She also sees this found family between the adults and the children of this house, and she is determined that these girls not be separated. She knows what loneliness is like and does not want it for this next generation of witches. This is a grumpy sunshine story. Jamie is the very surly librarian of the house, and he is very not okay with Mika being there. He's afraid that she will cause problems, that they will be discovered, that she won't support what they're doing, and holds himself back from her. Mika has decided that in spite of the loneliness, the facade she's going to show the world is a mask of kindness, of sunshine, of sweetness. And as you can imagine, they get along famously in the end. Jamie is incredibly protective, and almost without his conscious thought, Mika becomes someone that he feels is worth protecting and worth caring for. Some of my favorite moments in this book are when Mika reveals a truth about her childhood, about the loneliness, about the lack of care and compassion that she was shown, and you can see Jamie just indignant with rage on the behalf of child Mika. He has his own baggage to deal with, and that is something that they come to terms with together. This is a very light spice book. It is a slow burn, but the story is kind and sweet, and there's something about well-written children. I don't know if this is all children or whatever, but from the mouth of babes, there are some lines that when said through these children, they hit so much harder. They hit so much harder. Ian and Ken are a couple on the estate, and Ken is a meddling man. They're also in their 80s. Louise is probably in her 50s, and Jamie and Mika are both in their 30s. So there's this wide range, multi-generational living together. It's very sweet. It's very fun. The stakes certainly feel high because the risk is that these children are going to be separated, and you feel for them, and you don't want that. In terms of life and death, not so much. There is safety in knowing that this is not a war of the worlds. There's no one attacking. There's no imminent danger to their physical bodies. Just things that happen when you get a legal system involved in adoption and guardianship and all of that. I really enjoyed this book. It was the perfect time for me to read it. And if you are looking for more cozy reads, get this one on your TBR. If you read cozy all year round, put it on your TBR anyway. Just read it in April. That's fine. It's my favorite acronym. I read 2 light spice / zero spice books, and I needed something, and I knew Clio Evans would give it to me. I went back to her PNR series, Creature Cafe, with Little Sip of Sin. Creature Cafe is, I just love these. I think I really am a PNR person. Aliens are fine, but PNR is where it is for me. This story is about Kat, Dracon, and Dell. Dracon and Dell are 2 dragon shifters who the barista sets up with Kat as their fated mates. It's amazing. Just done. They are introduced blind date style by the barista and then say, hey, we're going to go have a weekend away together. And a lot happens on that weekend away. Number 1, they bone. It's an MMF romance. All 3 of them together. I love it. The point of these is mainly spice, especially this Creature Cafe, the 2 that I've read, where it's here's your fated mate, get together. I don't mind that it's mainly spice. There's also nodding in this, even though they're dragon shifters. There's nodding, there's a breeding situation, there's vibrating body appendages that you just have to suspend your disbelief for and let it go. It's not believable. It's fine. My only complaint, and I do remember this from A Little Slice of Hell, is why aren't they using lube? If you have a 12-inch ribbed cock, you really should be using more lube. If you're doing anything, but really if you're doing anal, every time that happens, I just go, You have a condom, but not lube? I don't know why. There is a lovely bit of found family that I'm getting to know in these stories. They are interconnected. So Dracon, if you read Little Slice of Hell, is one of Dante, the demon in that story's roommates. Dante and Peter show up, as does Rum, the Minotaur, the other roommate, who at the end of this story goes to the barista, probably to ask for his own mate, because that's what this seems to be about. I'm curious now who the barista is. I remember being curious last time, and now I'm even more curious. Kat has her own history with the barista, which comes into play in the plot of this story. It's really a side plot. She was married, she had a husband, a werewolf killed her husband. Very sad. I mean, it is very sad, but now she's with these other two, and everything's fine. It surprised me to see so many things that I associate with werewolves in this story. The Nodding, for one. There's also a nest, and I just haven't read a lot of PNR that has those things attached to it besides werewolves. I know it does exist. I know it's kind of part of PNR, and especially shifters in general, but I've mainly seen it in werewolves. So it was interesting and kind of threw me for a loop. There's so much, it's so much about the spice that anything else I say is going to be the spice. And it's good spice. Besides the lube thing, knotting is fun. There's a really funny moment because the way that these knots work is once you're knotted, you have to stay. The knot stay. I mean, it happens with most things, but it stays for a while, but you just keep having more and more climaxes. When Dal and Kat first knot, Dracon is cooking dinner and he comes and he finds them and he's like, oh man, you're in the bath. You knotted her. You're going to be stuck like that for an hour. And so picks them up and brings them, like dries them off and puts them on the couch near the kitchen so that he can keep an eye on them while they're just stuck together. Get a lot of FaceTime. Though it would be weird if you were stuck in a different position. I don't know. That's where my brain goes. Maybe I'll see it in a different book. There's some other explanation or situation going on. But that was just a really funny moment and a really sweet moment of also caretaking. There isn't just sex in these books. There's a lot of caretaking. There's a lot of kindness. There's a lot of respect for the partner and respect for the whole fated mates aspect of it, and makes it worth reading to me. It's not, I mean, it's smut. It's smut for smut's sake, but it's smut with emotion behind it and smut with believable relationships. And I think that's what made me come back to this specifically when I was looking for something to satisfy that urge. So short. Another novella. I was really excited to read this. This is The Warlord Wants Forever by Kresley Cole. Kresley Cole is one of the PNR OG writers. She's been around for forever, but for some reason I just missed her when I started reading PNR back in the day. But a bunch of people who I respect and who have been reading as long as I have mentioned her and told me to go read her. This series of hers is now on KU and I believe being re-released with new covers as well. So if you want something with a very large back catalog, this is going to be a great author to find and delve into. There are 21 books in the Immortals After Dark series. You've got a lot of reading to do. I've got a lot of reading to do. But this is the first one, the 0.5 of the series. I've seen 0.5, I've seen 1. Just go to her website and decide how you're going to deal with this. I wanted to start at the beginning. This is about Nikolai and Mist, and it's introducing the cast of characters that are part of this world. There is a definitions page or two at the beginning of this story, which I absolutely bookmarked because I've never seen PNR described in this way, which excites me to no end. All people involved in PNR, I'm calling them people, are under this term lore, all the lore. And Nikolai is a maid vampire and Mist is a Valkyrie. Valkyries are not often a character that I see, and I figured it might be more common after the whole Marvel universe, but this is way before. Book number 1 came out in 2006, so this is way back in the day. It is very short, so if you're looking for something that's going to give you a bit of an epic, probably not. But this is what I did, so we're just going to live with it. Nikolai is part of an army led by someone whose name you don't need to know, attacking someone whose name you don't need to know. They are attacking this castle, and Mist is being held hostage there. Held hostage because she's really let herself get taken hostage so she can glean information from the vampires that had control over that castle. There is a fated mates kind of situation. It's called being blooded for vampires. When you meet your fated person, your heart starts beating. You can breathe again. You get erections. Sorry. Not sorry at all. Mist seems to have some sort of power where she can blood vampires. I'm not 100% sure about that, but she ends up blooding Nikolai for various reasons. Her sisters save her, and then 5 years go by. Nikolai has been looking for her. Mist has been avoiding him, and he finally finds her through memories. There's a lot of like backstory and world building. This story is mainly about the two of them finding their way to each other. Are they going to trust each other? Are they going to get over each other's baggage? Now, my guess is that they come back in other stories as a main couple. So if you've read any of the Immortals After Dark series by Kresley, I'm kind of looking at you, literary intersections. I might tag you or send you this video. I want to know. And also, did I majorly fuck up by reading this novella first? So I'm not sure. I am not sure. Just come along with me. I'm trying to think about this. How do I phrase this? Suck My Life by Andie M. Long, and I'm not quite sure what made me get it from KU. Cover's cute. You know how it is with KU. You press get this book and then you're not in the mood for it, so it just sits there, but then it's taking up a spot from a book that you do really want to read soon, and you just got to get it off the list. This one was one of those. Nothing wrong with it. I've never heard anyone talk about it, or maybe I did, and that's why I got it in the first place. I'm honestly not sure. So, this is a very quick novella about vampires and death as a main character. Maya is our FMC. She is about to be drained by a vampire, and death shows up to claim her and make her the queen of wayward souls. Death lives in a house, and all the people who aren't automatic yays to heaven or hell go and stay there. He thought he could do both the job of himself, Death, collecting souls, and the job of the queen of wayward souls, but no can do, sir. You cannot. So there's just a bad clock, and he needs someone to help with the admin, and he decides that it's Maya. The way that he does this is she becomes a vampire. Not sure why. I started it around the first couple of chapters, went, this is cute, put it down, and picked it back up this past week. I know, I'm terrible. In the end, she becomes a vampire and becomes a queen of wayward souls, and it is very fast read. It's not even 200 pages, so definitely novella length if you're looking for a lighter rom-com that has PNR elements for spooky season. Death and Maya are attracted to each other, and they kind of dance around this attraction, especially because a lot of other things are happening. Maya dies. She becomes a vampire. She has to live in the House of Wayward Souls. She has to fix the House of Wayward Souls. It's gross. It's an old castle. It's dusty. No one's cleaned it. Everything's broken. It's quite a disaster. And start her new job deciding whether or not these souls are going to go up or down. There's also a town nearby, Gnarly Fell, that is full of PNR creatures, has a curse on it. She meets the people in that town as the new queen of the Wayward Souls house, which is just outside city limit. This is the first of a series of PNR novellas that are set in Gnarly Fell, the town of PNR characters that is just outside the castle, or the House of Wayward Souls, as we call it. So we do meet a lot of the characters that I'm assuming the rest of the 8 books in this series are about. While there's nothing inherently wrong with this story, it's very fast. It almost feels like too much plot was put into a novella for me to feel like it really made an impact. The resolution at the end of the novella is very quick. When Death, no, he has no other name than Death. He literally has no other name than Death. When Death and Maya finally consummate their attraction toward one another, he breaks up with her by writing like a post-it note breakup on the mirror while he's drawing her a bath. It's really a dick move, and it gets resolved very fast, like most novellas do. So if you're looking for something where you're going to be taken along on this emotional journey, this isn't going to be the book for you. If you're looking for a lighter rom-com that has more books attached to it that you can get lost in and meet a bunch of different PNR characters, this will be a good fit for you. I can't speak to the rest of the novellas. I haven't read them yet, but I do know that the next one is about the cupcake bakery owner who is so sweet. Oh my gosh. And she makes apparently some really good cupcakes. Almost No Spice was actually on the page, but I can live with it. Didn't take me that long to read, and I could move on to something really spicy afterwards.